Just imagine, you get stranded alone on an unknown planet where bizarre creatures are out to take your life. Something similar happens in our story today. The story begins with a mining spaceship named Boras. This spaceship carried several workers who were traveling while lying in their cryopods. Suddenly, an asteroid changed its course in space and started heading rapidly toward Boras. Within moments, it collided with the spaceship, triggering an emergency situation where the cryopods detached from the spaceship automatically. The ship's AI system, named Leonard, woke up the workers to prepare them for the upcoming challenges. As soon as the asteroid struck, a worker named Andy woke up. Leonard instructed him to remain calm and took measures for his safety. Shortly after being separated from the ship, Andy's cryopods started heading toward a nearby planet. As the cryopods entered the planet's atmosphere, several of them suddenly caught fire, and the people inside were burned to ashes. However, Andy's pod narrowly escaped catching fire. But during landing, its speed was dangerously high. Just before it was about to crash into a mountain, the pod started spinning to slow itself down. Eventually, the pod crash-landed, but Andy survived. Andy had lost consciousness. In that moment, he saw a vision of his family, which jolted him awake. Looking around, he realized he was stranded in a mountainous region, with dark, dense clouds looming overhead. He tried to contact the ship's AI system, but there was no response. Suddenly, the ground started trembling. Leonard advised him to exit the pod immediately. The problem was that Andy couldn't open the pod. He opened the survival kit, but there wasn't even a flare gun inside, because after all, Andy was just a low-level worker. Eventually, he used a fire extinguisher to break the pod's window and attempted to escape. But as he did, the pod shifted due to the trembling ground, and sharp glass tore his spacesuit. Leonard warned him that he wouldn't survive long on this planet without his suit intact. Acting quickly, Andy used a special repair spray to fix his suit. Just then, Leonard alerted him that a fire had broken out inside the pod. Andy crawled out of the pod as fast as he could, but he didn't forget to grab his son's last toy before leaving. Now, he stood alone on an unknown planet. Suddenly, he saw the burning Boras spaceship descending toward the planet. As the ship crashed, a massive explosion followed, unleashing a powerful force that sent Andy flying far away. Fortunately, he survived. Regaining his senses, Andy asked his AI, Leonard, about his current location. Leonard informed him that he was on an unknown planet, about which humans had little information. Their spaceship had never reached its intended destination. Just then, Andy spotted a light in the distance and started walking toward it. On his way, he came across the wreckage of Boras. As he searched, he found another cryopod. He tried to retrieve an oxygen tank from it to extend his survival time. But as soon as he opened the pod, a corpse fell out, shocking him. Summoning courage, he managed to extract the oxygen tank, but unfortunately, it was completely damaged. Frustrated, he continued toward the mysterious light. After he left, the scene revealed claw marks of a terrifying creature on the cryopod. This meant that Andy was not alone on this planet. When Andy reached the light, he found another worker named Dwayne. Seeing Andy, Dwayne was overjoyed. During their conversation, they realized that they had very little food or water to survive on this planet. Dwayne then told Andy that their company had chosen a shortcut to save money, but that route had asteroids, which caused the spaceship to crash. Dwayne worked in the communications department, so he was now planning to send a signal to Earth, requesting help so that a rescue ship could be sent for them. However, he explained that the signal would take 8 months to reach Earth, and even if the fastest rescue ship was sent, it would take at least 2 years to reach them. Dwayne suggested that they should head south to find another wreckage of Boras, where they could try to survive while stranded on this planet. Hearing this, Andy lost all hope, but Dwayne somehow encouraged him to keep going. Suddenly, as Andy moved his foot, he accidentally disconnected a wire from Dwayne's system. When Andy bent down to fix it, a ferocious creature appeared out of nowhere and snatched Dwayne in an instant. Andy did not even realize what had happened and was left completely confused about Dwayne's sudden disappearance. Regardless, Andy sent the signal to Earth and picked up Dwayne's gun, deciding to search for Boris' second wreckage alone. Soon, his oxygen supply began to run dangerously low, but he kept moving forward. Just then, a new voice appeared on his radio, a girl named Naomi. She told Andy that her legs were trapped under her cryopod and shared her location with him. Leonard immediately warned Andy that the area where Naomi was trapped was extremely dangerous. Visibility was very poor, and Andy would run out of oxygen before reaching her. Instead, Leonard advised Andy to head toward the remaining wreckage of their spaceship first so he could refill his oxygen tank. However, Naomi pleaded for help and told him that her pod had enough oxygen for both of them. Andy's heart softened, and he agreed to help her. Well, that's just how things work. No oxygen, no supplies, but risking his life for a stranger girl. As Andy moved toward Naomi, they started talking. Within a few hours, night fell, and Andy began to feel something strange around him. It seemed as if something was moving in the darkness. He asked Leonard to scan the area, but Leonard was an outdated AI model, chosen by the company to cut costs, so it wasn't capable of performing such scans. About an hour later, Andy felt the presence of something again in the darkness. He then told Naomi about Dwayne's sudden disappearance and started wondering what could have happened to him. Just then, Andy noticed strange footprints on the ground. He followed them and reached a deep hole covered with thick spider webs. Seeing this, he was terrified. He immediately told Naomi that there could be alien spiders on this planet. Realizing the danger, Andy started moving faster. On the way, he encountered more spider webs, reconfirming his fears. Naomi then asked him why he chose to work as a laborer. This made Andy recall memories of his past life, the happy moments he spent with his wife and son. Andy then told Naomi that Andy's wife and son had left him, and as he was lost in these thoughts, he suddenly heard a growling sound nearby. Frightened, he looked around. Just then, Leonard informed him that multiple trackers were present in his vicinity. The shocking part was that these trackers belonged to his fellow workers, the ones who had already died. As Andy moved closer to the trackers, he fired a flare gun to illuminate the surroundings. What he saw in the flare's light shook him to his core. A massive spider-like creature. Terrified, Andy tried to escape but ended up slipping off a cliff. He fell from a great height, but somehow survived. The monstrous spider above growled angrily, but did not jump down to follow him. Andy quickly informed Naomi about the spider-like creatures. He realized that the trackers were inside the spiders' stomachs, because these creatures had eaten his colleagues, and now their signals were coming from inside them. Just then, Andy noticed that his oxygen was leaking rapidly. He quickly used his spray to seal the leak. Suddenly, he heard a faint voice from Dwayne on the radio. Dwayne told Andy and Naomi that he was fighting the deadly spiders. Naomi urged Andy to go help Dwayne, but after falling from the cliff, Andy's GPS had malfunctioned. So, Naomi guided him to Dwayne's location using the radio. When Andy finally reached Dwayne, he saw that Dwayne was surrounded by multiple spiders. Dwayne shouted that he had a plan, but before he could execute it, a spider attacked him. Andy immediately hid behind a cryopod, watching in horror as the spider ruthlessly devoured Dwayne. Now, another spider caught Andy's scent and began moving towards him. At that moment, Naomi turned on the lights of a nearby cryopod, distracting the spider. Andy took the opportunity and ran toward another pod to hide. But inside he found a decaying corpse. Andy urgently asked Naomi to turn off the lights of her pod, but Naomi had a different idea. Instead of turning off just her pod's light, she turned on all the nearby pod's lights at once. This distracted the spiders, as they were now drawn toward the multiple light sources. Taking advantage of the chaos, Andy escaped, but one spider still chased after him. Eventually, Andy entered a foggy region where visibility was extremely poor. Andy urged Naomi to get out of her pod as soon as possible, but she was still trapped. Naomi panicked, so Andy calmly sang a song, one that he used to sing in his past life. This helped her calm down. Naomi then said that Dwayne was dead, and now only the two of them were left alive on this planet. Meanwhile, as Andy was trying to navigate through the fog, he suddenly realized something strange. The spiders had stopped chasing him. Just then, a swarm of glowing purple fireflies appeared before him. The sight was mesmerizing, and for a moment, Andy stood still, admiring their beauty. However, within seconds, the fireflies turned red with rage and attacked Andy. He barely escaped with his life. Naomi then suggested that perhaps the spiders were afraid of these fireflies, which was why they had stopped chasing Andy. Before Andy could respond, the ground suddenly trembled, and a massive creature emerged from beneath. In an instant, the creature swallowed Andy whole. As he was consumed, memories of his family flashed before his eyes. Now trapped inside the creature's body, Andy called for Leonard's help. The insides of the creature were suffocating, and Andy felt as if he was having a heart attack. At that moment, Leonard released a toxic gas from Andy's suit, which burned the creature from the inside. Unable to withstand the pain, the monster vomited Andy out. Andy, now drenched and struggling, stumbled forward, barely clinging to life. Andy fell into a cave-like area, which was swarming with fireflies. The moment he landed, the fireflies attacked him. Andy immediately ran and barely managed to escape through another opening. Fortunately, the fireflies didn't chase him outside. However, Andy was now critically low on oxygen. Instead of heading toward the other wreckage of the ship, he chose to go to Naomi instead. Just as he reached Naomi, his oxygen completely ran out. Naomi quickly shared her oxygen with him, keeping him alive. Andy then tried to free Naomi's trapped legs, but he was too weak. Using some tools, he somehow managed to set her free, and they both rushed out of the pod. Afterward, Andy tied a metal piece around Naomi's injured leg, providing her some support to walk. Together, they gathered useful supplies from Naomi's pod. Naomi thanked Andy for choosing to save her instead of heading to the ship. Just moments later, a swarm of spiders arrived, forcing them to run for their lives. After running for a while, they collapsed from exhaustion. One of the spiders was about to attack them, but Naomi fired her flare gun, which distracted the spider, making it run toward the light instead. Taking advantage of this, they rushed toward the second part of the ship. However, couldn't close the door, because the control system was malfunctioning. After struggling for a while, she finally managed to shut the door, just as a spider was caught between the closing mechanism and got crushed. Outside, the rest of the spiders began attacking the door aggressively, forcing Andy and Naomi to retreat deeper into the ship. Inside, emergency lights were still active, meaning the backup generator was functioning. Since Naomi knew the ship's layout, she led the way, while Andy, unfamiliar with the ship, followed her closely. Soon, they found a cabin that contained oxygen supplies and other essential items. Just then, they noticed a stream of blood flowing nearby. That's when they realized that a spider had entered the ship. They hid quickly and saw the spider laying eggs. It then covered the eggs in webbing and placed a corpse nearby as food. The sight made Andy extremely anxious, but fortunately, the spider didn't detect them and eventually left the area. As soon as Andy and Naomi stepped out, another spider attacked them from behind. Andy grabbed Naomi and ran into a room, locking the door behind them. Thinking they were safe, Andy relaxed for a moment, but Naomi pointed out a horrifying truth. They had locked themselves outside the ship instead of inside. Realizing this, Andy became furious and started banging on the door with a metal rod, but it was pointless. There was no way back in. Luckily, there was oxygen inside the room, so both of them removed their helmets and sat down to talk. Andy showed Naomi a video of his wife and son and revealed a painful truth. They had been killed in a tragic car accident while returning from his birthday party. He survived, but since then, he felt like his life had lost all meaning. Naomi, however, reassured him, saying, "You saved my life. Maybe that's why you survived, to help someone else." She also confessed that she had lost faith in people, but seeing Andy's selflessness had given her hope again. Saying this, Naomi hugged Andy. Just then, she noticed something terrifying. A few fireflies were stuck to Andy's suit. As Naomi and Andy sat in the room, still catching their breath, a sudden, loud crash shook the entire place. The spider had finally broken through the door. Just as the monstrous creature lunged at them, Naomi quickly grabbed the firefly nest and threw it at the spider. The fireflies exploded into an angry swarm, making the spider screech and retreat in panic. Seizing the opportunity, Andy and Naomi sprinted out of the room. As they ran, they nearly fell into a massive cargo pit, but managed to stop just in time. However, the spider quickly recovered and charged toward them at full speed, and this time, they couldn't escape. All three of them, Andy, Naomi, and the spider, fell into the pit together. The spider immediately went for the kill, but Andy threw Naomi's oxygen spray at it. As soon as the spider bit into the canister, it exploded, momentarily stunning the creature. Andy and Naomi used this moment to escape. But Andy had one final plan, to crush the spider under a falling pod. He told Naomi to distract the spider while he searched for a pod. At the same time, Leonard, his AI assistant, informed him that there was a pod 2 floors above them. Andy climbed up as fast as he could, while Naomi barely dodged the spider's vicious attacks. To help Naomi, Andy shut off all the lights, giving her a chance to escape. Naomi then activated emergency lights to lure the spider directly under the pod. Meanwhile, Andy finally reached the pod and tried to activate it manually. Just then, Leonard informed him that he had shut down the ship's power to protect Naomi. It would take 15 minutes to restart it, but Andy didn't have that much time. So, he made a risky decision. He connected the pod directly to his suit's power supply. Leonard warned him that doing this would cause a short circuit, meaning Leonard himself would be permanently destroyed. Additionally, falling from such a height meant Andy might not survive the impact. Despite all this, Andy still went through with it. He activated the pod, and it came crashing down straight onto the spider, crushing it completely. But the impact was so violent that Andy was knocked unconscious. Naomi rushed to his side, crying uncontrollably, believing that Andy was dead. However, after a few tense moments, Andy suddenly gasped for air and woke up. Overjoyed, Naomi hugged him tightly. At that exact moment, the first rays of sunlight hit the horizon. For the first time, they truly saw the beauty of this alien world. Even though it was filled with dangerous creatures, it was also breathtakingly beautiful. And just then, Leonard's voice returned. He had updated himself and was back online. To lighten the mood, he played a romantic song, making both Andy and Naomi smile. They held hands and looked toward the unknown future, because on this planet, they only had each other. And with no rescue coming for at least 2 years, the real question was, would they survive? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. See you in the next video.